Have you ever finished a book, closed the cover, and immediately thought, why isn't everybody talking about this? Those are my favorite kinds of books. Not necessarily the books that won every award or the books that everybody is talking about on BookTok and it's trending, but the books that quietly stay with you, the ones that you find yourself recommending over and over again because they deserve a much bigger conversation. So today, I am sharing 10 Black books that I genuinely believe deserve more love. If you have ever trusted one of my recommendations before, this video is for you.
Slow, turn the page, find your peace in this space, honey and prose. Welcome home.
Hey Book Nook crew, welcome back to Honey and Prose, where we talk about stories, softness, and the emotional experience of reading. One thing you'll learn about me is that I love introducing people to books that somehow slipped under the radar. These are the books that I find myself recommending to friends, co-workers, family, and now I am recommending them to you. Let's get into it. So book number 1 would be Perfect Peace by Daniel Black. This novel centers on a Southern family carrying a secret that is so profound that it shapes every relationship in the household. Without giving too much away, it is a deeply moving story about identity, love, family, expectations, and the emotional cost of living according to other people's ideas of who you should be. Now, what I loved most about this book is how patient it is. Daniel Black doesn't rush the story. He allows you to really know these characters before asking you to carry their pain. By the end, I wasn't just reading about them, I cared about them. So if you enjoy literary fiction that is deeply character driven and asks big questions about family and belonging, this is absolutely worth your time. Some books demand your attention. This one quietly earns your heart. Next is The Color of Water by James McBride. This one is a memoir and it tells the story of James McBride growing up as one of 12 Black children raised by his white Jewish mother. Her name was Ruth. As an adult, he sets out to understand her life before she became his mother, uncovering a remarkable story about identity, faith, sacrifice, and unconditional love. What stayed with me was Ruth. Her strength, her resilience, her willingness to build a life despite incredible obstacles. It is one of those books that gently reminds you that every parent has a story beyond the role that they play in your lives. If you enjoy memoirs that feel deeply personal while exploring larger questions about race, family, and belonging, I really think you'll appreciate this one. Sometimes understanding someone else's story changes your own. Now, let's talk about The Darkest Child by Delores Phillips. This novel follows Tangi Mae Quinn, a young Black girl who's growing up in rural Georgia, I can't say that word, and she's under the control of her abusive mother. It's a story about survival, resilience, and the determination to imagine a life beyond the circumstances that you're born into. Please know, going in, this is a difficult read. It deals with abuse, poverty, and trauma, but it's also one of the most beautifully written books I have ever experienced. I found myself putting it down more than once, not because it wasn't good, but because I needed a moment to process what I had read. If you appreciate emotionally powerful literary fiction and don't shy away from difficult topics, this one is unforgettable. Some stories don't let you look away, and they are stronger because of it. This next recommendation is The Keeper of Lost Children by Sadika Johnson. This is one of those quieter books that doesn't rely on shocking twists or constant action. Instead, it invites you into a story about family, love, loss, and the connection that shapes our lives. I love books like this because they trust the reader. The emotion builds gradually. The characters become familiar. And before you know it, you are completely invested. If you're someone who enjoys reflective, character-driven fiction, don't overlook this one. The quietest books often leave the loudest echoes. If you've been around this channel a while, you know I love horror. So, I had to include The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This one is set in a deeply religious society where they have strict rules that govern every aspect of life. This is a dark fantasy that follows Emmanuel Moore as she begins uncovering dangerous truths about her community, about her family, and about herself. The atmosphere is amazing. It is eerie. It is unsettling. And it keeps you feeling like something isn't quite right from the beginning to the end. So, if you are curious about horror that relies on atmosphere, tension, and thoughtful world building, rather than cheap scares, definitely check this one out. The best horror does not scare you, it unsettles your soul. If you are enjoying these recommendations, go ahead and hit subscribe, because if there's one thing we do around here, it is shine a light on books that deserve a bigger conversation. Now, let's get back to the list. The sixth book is Burn Down Master's House by Clay Kane. This book takes us into the lives of enslaved people who resisted, fought back, and refused to accept a version of history that often centers only suffering. It is rooted in real acts of resistance and reminds us that courage has always existed, even in the darkest chapters of American history. One thing that I appreciated about this book is that it challenged me. It didn't preach to me. It challenged me to think differently about the stories that we inherit and the ones that we're never taught. I found myself stopping after certain chapters just to reflect, not because the writing was difficult, but because the history was heavy. If you enjoy historical fiction or history in general that asks hard questions while honoring resilience, I highly recommend this one. Some books don't rewrite history, they help us to see it more clearly. Next up is one of my favorite black horror novels, The Good House by Tananarive. This story follows Angela Toussaint, who returns to her hometown after she experiences an unimaginable personal tragedy. As she reconnects with her family's history, she discovers that both the town and her ancestral home are hiding terrifying secrets. Now, let me tell you why I love this book. Yes, it is scary, but that's not why I'm recommending it. I recommend it because Tananarive do understand something that the best horror writers know. if I don't care about the characters, I won't care about the horror. She spends so much time building his family's relationships that when everything begins to unravel, your heart is already invested. If you always wanted to try black horror but didn't know where to start here. The best horror stories don't just haunt the house, they haunt the heart. Next is Restore Me by J.L. Seegars. This is a contemporary romance about two people navigating love while carrying the weight of their past. Rather than rushing into the happily ever after, this novel takes its time exploring the healing, vulnerability, and forgiveness, and what it really means to trust someone again. One thing that I absolutely loved about this book is that it reminded me romance isn't less than. Sometimes we treat romance like it's separate from emotionally rich storytelling. I couldn't disagree more. This book made me smile, it made me ache, it made me root for these characters with my whole heart. If you enjoy romances that are emotionally mature and beautifully written, I think you'll love this one. The best love stories aren't about finding perfect people. They're about finding the courage to love imperfect ones. The next recommendation is One Summer in Savannah by Terah Shelton Harris, and this is our July book club pick. The heart of this story is about a mother and daughter, the secrets that can shape an entire family, and what happens when the truth refuses to stay buried. This one is set against the beautiful backdrop of Savannah, Georgia. And this novel explores forgiveness, identity, family legacy, and the complicated love that exists between mothers and daughters. What I love most about this book is that it never felt rushed. It gives every relationship room to breathe. The setting is rich, it's vibrant, and you can almost feel the southern heat and hear the conversations happening on the front porches. But what really stayed with me was emotional honesty. It reminded me that families can carry secrets for years, but healing often begins the moment that those secrets come into the light. If you love Southern fiction, emotionally layered family dramas, and the stories that explore the complicated relationships between mothers and daughters, I think this book deserves a place on your shelf. Some family secrets divide us. Others become the first step toward healing. And finally, the final revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. This novel is written like a documentary, telling the story of an iconic rock duo from the 1970s whose music, activism, and complicated relationships changed their lives forever. Y'all, there were moments where I had to remind myself that these weren't real people. That's how convincing this book is. It blends interviews, journalism, music history, and fiction so seamlessly that it feels like you're uncovering the story of a band that you somehow missed. Beyond the creativity, it is also a thoughtful exploration of race, fame, identity, and who gets remembered in history. This is one of the most original books I have read in years. If you're looking for something completely different, please don't skip this one. The most unforgettable stories aren't always true. They just feel like they are. Those are the 10 black books that I will probably never stop recommending. Not because they're the most popular, not because everybody else is talking about them, but because every single one of these books gave me something. They challenged me, moved me, surprised me, and long after I finished reading them, I was still thinking about them. That's really what Honey and Prose is all about. Finding stories that stay with us and sharing them with readers who are looking for the same kind of experience. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one black book that you've recommended over and over again because you wish more people were talking about it? Leave it in the comments because some of my favorite reads have come from recommendations. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Book Nook crew. Until next time, drink something warm, pick up something good, and I will see you in the next chapter.
Sweet like honey, let it flow. Every line got a